In this part of Dbms, we will be module 1. We will be covering the advantages, and I hope the lighting is correct. I don't know. Okay, should I change the lighting? Like maybe a different light. I don't know. This would work. Okay, this is better. Okay, so let's cover the advantages and disadvantages of Dbms. So the first advantage is advantage. First, we'll be covering advantage. So here the first is controlling redundancy. What do you mean by redundancy? Redundancy means like you are having the problem of the same thing. That is, the same data is there everywhere. Okay, it's nothing but you are creating a copy of the same database. So you are having a lot of multiple copy of the same thing, right? When you have multiple copy of the same thing, what is the use of it? Right, such problem comes, so such things are called as redundancy issue. So that is, you are having the copy of the same thing. So we don't need such issue of having the copy of the same thing every time, right? So that is called as a redundancy. So let us see here how it is. But when you consider the Dbms, in Dbms the issue of this redundancy is not there. Okay, in Dbms what happened is that there is a concept called as controlling redundancy. That is, in our traditional file system, in the normal file processing, what happened is that every user is maintaining the copy of the same file. That means if you have some number of users, if you can see here, you can see here that you have different number of users, right? This is one user, this is another user, this is another user. Now each of these user has the, this is a data same this is a file, this is a file, student file. Now the copy of the student file, that is copy 1, copy 2, copy 3 are present in each of the user. So what happened is that the same copy is present in each of these users. So this issue is called as what? Redundancy. This issue is called as redundancy. So here in Dbms, what happened is that the Dbms, what it will do, such problem is not there. Only in traditional file system such problem is there. So in Dbms, same copy can be shared among many users. Thus redundancy is avoided. See, only one copy is available to every user. This is what happens in Dbms. So in Dbms, as you can see, only one copy is available to every user. So what happened is that the redundancy problem is basically solved in Dbms. So this is the first advantages, that is Dbms helps in controlling what? Dbms helps in controlling redundancy issue. Now, the second advantage of Dbms is restricting unauthorized access. That means in here, what people do here, what happens here, we have to understand that multiple users are sharing a same large database, right? You have to understand here very clearly. So understand the scenario. Okay, the scenario is that you have a very big large database with you. This is a large database with you, and there are a lot of data that is available in it. Okay, let us say this is a college database. Okay, college database. So what happened is that you can see your marks, only the database of, let us consider one student 1. Student 1 can see it's only the details of it, that student. It should not allow to see the details of another student. That means this student is restricted the access of the data of student 2. Okay, there is two data, one data of student 1 and one data of student 2. So the student 1 is only given access to the data of it, that is data of student 1, and student 2 is giving access to the data of only student 2 and restricting the data of student 1. This is called as, that means there is it also helps in security purpose, that is unauthorized access is basically prevented. Unauthorized access is prevented. That is what it is meaning. What does it means by telling that is Dbms helps in restricting unauthorized access. So let's read out here. When multiple users, okay, when multiple users are sharing the same large database, it is likely that most users will not be authorized to access all information. Most of the user is not accessing all of the information. Only what that user needs would only be shown to them. So if I consider financial data is confidential, and only authorized persons are allowed to see that financial data because it is confidential. So confidential data is only allowed to see by people who is authorized to see that. So unauthorized people are not allowed to see that. So therefore, in a multiple users, what happens is when they are accessing the same large database, so all of the users are not able to access all of the data. They are not authorized to access all of the information in the database, right? The third is providing storage structure for efficient query processing. Now the next important DBMS advantage is that it will provide storage structure for what? For query processing. Let us understand what does that means, okay? So DBMS provide specialized data structures and search technique to speed up the disk search for the desired records. So first of all, there is some storing. First of all, you have to understand that DBMS has the storage structure in it. Storage structure. So what does this helps to do? Since DBMS has this storage structure, what happens is that if you wanted to access, or if you wanted to look for a database or a data, then you can easily search that through the indexes, that is, DBMS provides a specialized data structure and search technique to speed up this search for the desired record. Now indexes are used for this purpose. That means in our disk, if we wanted to search for one particular data, so if you wanted to search for a particular data in disk, what happened is that it is easy in DBMS. That is only how to understand. If you consider our disk, the data and all are present in the disk. So if I want to search a particular data in DBMS, there is some special data structures and searching techniques. What DBMS offer? DBMS offer special search techniques, right? Special search techniques. And what does the other thing that DBMS offer? It is there are some data structures. So both this data structures and some special search techniques helps to easily search for a data from the disk. From the disk, it becomes much more easier to access the data. So what happened is that how the data is marked index. Through index, we will get some data. Through that, each of the data has one index, like 1, 2, 3. Through that indexes, the fast searching basically happens. So in order to process the database records needed by a particular query, these records must be copied from the disk to the main memory. And DBMS then what happens is that has a buffering or caching modules that maintain parts of the database. So what here is that now we wanted to basically process the query. In order to process the database records which is needed by, so for a query there is some records which is needed. So what happened when you are let us say from your hard disk, let's say this is your hard disk which contains all of our DBMS folder. Okay, this is the hard disk which contains all of the DBMS folder. Now here there is employee table. Okay, now the query is that I wanted to see the names of the employee names. Okay, this is the query. Select the name from employee. So whatever the desired records, I have to take that record from the disk to the main memory. Okay, the records that I need, that is the name records from the employee table, I will take from the disk to the main memory, and for processing that query, right? That is what it is written here. That is what basically just written here. Here, in order to process the database record which is needed by a particular query, what happened is that this record must be copied from our disk to the main memory, and the DBMS often has this buffering or caching modules. This is important. Why does DBMS has buffering or caching modules that maintains the part of the database? Now, buffering means what? There is a buffer storage which, see, if this is my main hard disk, buffering and caching modules are basically used for this purpose. From hard disk to the memory, if you wanted to process some database record, it is basically happening. So we have to understand that there is some storage structures which is available. Okay, so that is why a buffering or caching module, buffering method, you can see in the main memory there is buffering area which contains, we are selecting the name from the student. Now this database contains students, so whatever the name, that only will be present in the buffering, in the main memory buffering area. That is why we are going to, through the buffering or caching module, this basically is being achieved here. This is what you have to understand. So this third advantage was that providing storage, right? Providing the storage structure, that is, it has, DBMS have some special data structures and speed, special techniques for fast searching, right? Speed up the searching area, searching technique for speeding up the disk search for what? For the desired records. In order to get the desired record, we need to first search it in the disk. So how do we search it in the disk? Through the data structure and the specialized searching techniques which is present in the DBMS, and that is basically through the caching and buffering modules. What happened is that we are taking the desired data from the hard disk to the main memory. This much we have understood. This is the third advantage of what? Third advantage of DBMS. Next advantage is providing backup and recovery. Now what happened is that DBMS always do backup, so that whenever a hardware or software failure come, the recovery can happen before, just before the transaction is made. That is, DBMS provide facilities for recovery from hardware or software failure. So whenever a hardware software failure occur, DBMS can do what? Recovery. That means backup and recovery subsystem of the DBMS is responsible for, together with the backup and recovery subsystems which is available in the DBMS, they are responsible for this recovery advantage. So who are for this backup and recovery subsystem of the DBMS, it is responsible for recovery. If the computer system fails in the middle of a computer update transaction, the recovery subsystem is responsible for making sure that the database is restored to the state it was before, so the transaction was started. So whenever a transaction is happening, for update transaction is happening, so what have a recovery subsystem? Recovery subsystem of DBMS means what? Backup and recovery both are there. So they are basically responsible for making sure that the data was how it was before the transaction happened. So that makes sure that the database is restored to the state it was before the transaction has been started. So if I want to do update before the, while I was doing this update transaction, what happened is that the failure occurred. So before there was one data, so now what happened? The DBMS recovery subsystem would recover what was there before the update transaction. That is what the statement means. Before the update transaction, whatever the data was there, that will be recovered. Okay, now the fifth advantage is that providing multiple user interface. Now DBMS provides multiple user interfaces. That is, DBMS provide a lot of user interfaces. Lot of user interfaces are available. That is why we say providing multiple interfaces. So first is the there is query language interface and programming language interface. Querying language interface for ask for casual users. If programmers are needed, then programming language interface is also supported by DBMS, and also menu driven interfaces for what? GUI, graphical user interfaces, and also form based interfaces also there. DBMS provides query language based interface, programming language based interface, menu driven interface, and also finally the form based interfaces. So these much different types of interfaces are provided by the DBMS. That is why we say that DBMS provides multiple user interfaces.